Imagine you're stepping into the dark ages of the world of darkness, a time when Europe was not only divided by mortal kingdoms, but also ruled from the shadows by vampires. For centuries, during what vampires called the Long Night, Tainites lived almost openly among humans. This period stretched from the fall of Rome until 1204 CE, when Crusaders sacked Constantinople. That catastrophe shattered a major bastion of vampire power and ended the Long Night. In its wake came an age known as the War of Princes, where vampire lords fought over territories and influence across Europe. This was not a single war with clear sides, but a complex web of feuds that raged throughout the 13th and 14th centuries. In Cainite society, a strict code known as Feudal lex talionis governed everyone. It demanded absolute loyalty from younger vampires to their elders and created a hierarchy similar to mortal feudalism. Ancient Methuselahs acted as monarchs, ruling enormous domains and commanding lords. Those lords governed kingdoms or regions, while princes controlled individual cities. Beneath them were barons, who served as field commanders, and knights, newly embraced vampires, who fought and bled on the front lines. This structure reinforced the divide between high clans, such as the Ventru and La Sombra, and low clans like the Bruja and Nosferatu. Yet the constant fighting gave many low clan warriors a chance to prove themselves and even seize territory, slowly breaking down these rigid caste lines. Europe during the War of Princes was a chessboard of fiefdoms, each with its own goals and power struggles. In the Holy Roman Empire, the elder Ventru, known as Hardestadt, ruled over the fiefs of the Black Cross. His domains were bastions of feudalism and Ventru supremacy, and princes within his empire schemed against each other while still acknowledging his authority. Hardestadt's courts clashed with Italian La Sombra, French Toreador, and even rebellious Ventru. He enforced a strict policy of secrecy about vampiric existence, which later evolved into the Masquerade and would shape modern Cainite law. Across the Channel, the baronies of Avalon were led by Prince Mithras of London. He made pacts with other Ventru and kept his barons from raising private armies, wary that their ambitions might spiral out of control. Mithras watched the rising threat of the Tremere and the Tremere and Omen War on the continent, and tried to balance alliances with Hardestadt and the French courts. France itself was dominated by the courts of love, led by matriarch Saliana of the Toreador clan. She combined art, beauty, and politics, nurturing culture while scheming to expand her territories. Some princes in France defied her authority, and she sought common ground with Hardestadt or Mithras when it suited her interests. Meanwhile, on the Mediterranean, the Sea of Shadows was ruled by Montano, a La Sombra Methuselah. Montano acted as the spokesperson for his ancient sire and attempted to stay neutral in the religious conflicts between Christian and Muslim vampires, though he tacitly supported the Reconquista that pushed Muslim vampires out of Spain. In Eastern Europe, the Voivodate of Transylvania belonged to the Tzimisce. Their lands were a frontier of dark forests and mountains where ancient voivodes ruled like warlords. It was here that the Omen War erupted in the late 12th century, pitting the Tzimisce against the newly turned wizards known as the Tremere. The Tremere were still mastering their vampiric powers and found themselves under siege by Tzimisce voivodes and rebellious Bruja. To fight back, they adapted their hermetic magic into a new form of blood sorcery called thaumaturgy. They conducted terrible experiments on captured vampires, Tzimisce, Nosferatu, and Gangrel, which resulted in the creation of the gargoyles, winged monstrosities first fielded in the early 1120s as shock troops. Despite their innovations, the Tremere were scorned by older vampires and repeatedly expelled from cities. Seeking legitimacy, they studied the origins of vampirism and embraced the act of diablerie, consuming another vampire's soul. In 1133, they used that knowledge to justify the destruction of the pacifist Salubri clan, cementing their place in Cainite society. Even Hardestadt later bought Tremere, support against his Transylvanian foes. the War of Princes wasn't confined to Transylvania. In the fiefs of the Black Cross, princes plotted succession disputes and battled neighboring courts. Hardestadt's child Jurgen led the Teutonic Knights eastward, clashing with Simis voivodes and stirring tensions with Muslim vampires known as the Ashira. In England, despite Mithras's efforts to control his barons, private armies still rose in secret. In France, Saliana's courts waged small wars against independent princes and the growing influence of the Tremere. Alliances shifted constantly, with today's allies turning into tomorrow's enemies. Everything changed when the Mortal Inquisition emerged in the mid-13th century. Although the War of Princes had begun before the Inquisition formed, some vampire elders tried to weaponize human inquisitors against their rivals. This strategy soon backfired. Inquisitors proved more dangerous to vampires than vampires were to one another. The threat of discovery forced princes to rethink open warfare. Combined with the spread of the Anarch movement, young vampires tired of dying in elders' conflicts and the destabilizing Mongol invasions in the east, the stage was set for a major shift. By the end of the 15th century, after nearly 300 years of feudal strife and mortal persecution, the surviving elders met at the Convention of Thorns in 1493. This conclave codified the traditions that govern vampire behavior, founded the Camarilla, an alliance designed to protect vampires from mortal hunters, and formalized the Masquerade, the directive that vampires must hide their existence. Hardestadt, whose strict enforcement of secrecy had set a precedent, became one of the Camarilla's first justicars. The creation of the Camarilla effectively ended the War of Princes, but its legacy continued to shape the vampire world. The long conflict left deep scars. The Camarilla and Masquerade now stand at the heart of vampiric society, born from the need for survival. Low-clan vampires who earned respect on the battlefield would later rise up in the Anarch Revolt, demanding freedom from feudal obligations. The Tremere transformed from distrusted warlocks into a dominant clan, their gargoyle servants a lasting reminder of their ruthless ingenuity. Regions like Transylvania fractured under the strain of war and invasion, while Hardestadt's model of bureaucracy influenced Camarilla politics. And perhaps most importantly, the War of Princes remains a cautionary tale for vampires. Elders cite it to justify strict hierarchies, while rebels point to it as evidence that elder rule breeds only war and suffering. Understanding this tumultuous era offers insight into why modern vampires obsess over secrecy, why some cling to tradition, and why others still dream of revolution. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed unraveling the history of the War of Princes, please like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what other World of Darkness topics you'd like us to explore next.